Okay, I have just gone through the back of the fishing village. In deference to the locals, I did not film the trek, but as you can see, there is a small little cement walkway that leads around the side of the mountain, and we are continuing past these foundations and around the front of the mountain. Steps can be tricky around here because cement is broken, and some of the footholds on the rock are not stable, so you have to be really careful. As you can see ahead of me, there are footholds. If you're sure-footed, you can do without them. If you're not sure-footed, I would use them if I could, but be careful, because test each one before you go, because they may shift. So I am not going to film as I'm going to cross this, because I want to be sure I'm stepping on a solid surface. So continuation later. So I have crossed the treacherous rock face and now looking across toward my hotel. The little red roof building you see in front of the white building is where I am staying. And as you can see right now, there is a boat returning from a night's worth of fishing to unload either a squid or some kind of seafood from the Bay of Thailand. Okay, continuing on, I have to go around several large rocks and boulders. But there is a trail here, so it isn't quite that difficult. The reason I'm doing this video is because many people staying at Anantasila or the hotels on this side of the mountain see this mountain every day, but they don't really realize what kind of cool stuff is here. So this video is to kind of like show people what you could see if you were brave enough to walk behind the fishing village, inches away from people's houses, and come and be adventurous and find a place that no one has seen before or hasn't seen in a very long time. As you can see, again, the red roof building is the hotel Anantasila Villa by the Sea. You can find it at Anantasila.com if you would choose to stay in this lovely place. Okay, so now we are headed up the mountain a little ways. It's kind of a scary little trail filled with thorny trees and such. And one of the first cool things we come up to is a little temple or thing made. And you can see it's been here a while. Depicts devotees to the Buddha, and there are some little statues there. And they have this Buddha there, and then the big guy himself here. So I have to turn off the camera again because I have to go through this quite weedy patch, so bear with me to see the next cool thing. Okay, we've gone through the weedy patch and now looking up toward the top of the mountain. A person could climb this if they were sure-footed enough. There are ways all the way to the top. If you could have good shoes and good constitution, you should be able to climb this no problem. Looking out towards sea, we can see a fishing boat out in the bay. Just a few. The mountain way down there at the very end of the beach is called Khao Takiab, and I walked there. It's about 7 kilometers from Anantasila, which you can see again over here. Out in the bay, if you can see it, there are 3 islands, 2 major ones. One is called the Lion Island, and the one to the extreme right is the Turtle Island. And I've yet to visit these islands, but it'd be really cool to do so. So, continuing on. Today it's about 10 o'clock a.m. and it is already quite warm out here on the mountain because the sun just bakes these rocks really well and gets really hot. So now we are at one of the points that we can see from the hotel, and soon we'll be past this point, and we'll be seeing things that you cannot see from the hotel itself. So again, I have another rock face to cross. This one's a little easier. It does have cement steps like the other one, but I'm still going to turn the camera off until I get across. So I'll see you back later. So we are across the rock face. Still again, we're closer to the boat that's parked out in the ocean. And here we have an example of the lovely fauna that grows on the mountain. Very picky, and sometimes they encroach the trail, so you have to be very careful when going past these. And needles are extremely sharp, and be careful when getting poked, especially in a country like Thailand. There's a chance for infection, so try not to let them poke you. Here, this is a fence, which I've been told it was constructed by the army to denote property, I guess. And if anyone can read the Thai sign here, I think that's what it says. It says army property or army easement or something like that. And here is a cool formation in the rock. We see these in Minnesota, where I'm from. It's a little formation caused by a stone that was swirled around and around and around on the rock when the tides were higher, and made a smooth kind of borehole into the rock. So, continuing on, we're going to be going to the woods again pretty soon, and after we do so, we're going to go to about where you see that hump is there, and that's where another cool thing is. And I'll explain that to you later when I get to it. But enjoy the view for now. I'm going to pan across. Oh my goodness, look at that. A marking that points to something ahead. What could it be? Well, we're going to see soon enough. Another example of the flora that does very well on the mountain because it is so dry. You can see massive and massive amounts of cactus and scrub trees that seem to survive very well up here. This particular cactus, which is very large, I had a relative of it once in my house that would spike the dog's tails all the time. But this one is a huge, huge example. It's about 8 feet tall and maybe 12 to 13 feet wide. It is a humongous cactus. It's very pretty though. As you can see, it's starting to flower pretty quick. Or they are already flowered. These are the fruiting bodies, actually. Kind of cool, huh? And then back out to the sea. As you can see, I'm a little bit at height here. Not hugely, but enough that it would hurt if I fall. Okay, so continuing on, we find a break in the cactus and a trail. This trail does lead to something pretty cool, I promise. But I'm going to turn off the camera pretty quick because I have to watch my step, because like an idiot I am wearing open-toed sandals, so there's a chance I could trip my toe on a piece of cactus or cut a piece of glass, because sometimes people come back here and party and throw bottles around, and so we're just gonna I'm gonna turn off the camera so I can concentrate on the trail ahead and to bypass the dangers. So we are coming up to something cool in there. It's an old building that seems to have collapsed. I forget how old this was. There is a date stamped on some of the concretes up here, so we'll be able to check in a minute. But as you can see overhead, there's a huge overcropping of rock that you may be able to see through the trees. And this overcrop protects something pretty cool and something that not many people get to see. So we're coming up the last bit of the trail. It's pretty rustic, not well used, but a few people come here every year, just enough to keep the trail open, but that's about it. So, as you can see, it's not very delineated as a trail, but if you know where you're going and where you're headed to and been here before, you can see. So we're coming up now onto some of the cool stuff, features of the mountain. So as you can see, there are steps that lead up to the major part of the overcap of the mountain, and up at the top there you see this cube. We will see that in a better detail in a minute. That is a cistern that is used to collect water. And it's likely monks lived up here in solitude for a while. Here we come to an inscription on the rock, and hopefully we'll have a translation for that later. And looky here, these pots have managed to stay intact for quite a long time. I've been coming up here once in a while for the last 12 years, and no one seems to have broken any. They seem to respect the pots. These pots are used to collect water and for bathing and drinking, I imagine, although I wouldn't drink it. Coolness here. This is a sign that will also be translated later. But one of the cool features of this place is him in a little cave. In the back of the overcrop is him. He sits there undisturbed. Occasionally I come and I see offerings to him, but it's an amazing thing that he stays here. I think it's more to do with the kind of remoteness of the place, that people don't get here very often. And so here we are. I got the steps. The collapsed building used to sit over here. It has collapsed and kind of fell down the mountain a little bit. And keep an eye on the steps. Also keep an eye out for my monkey. There's a monkey up here with 3.5 legs, and this time I'm prepared with some fruit for him in case he shows up. So you can see the overhang is above us now, so it is pretty protected in here. Again, you can see the cistern. Behind it there's nothing much. Over here was a natural pool, but this year it is dried up. It's a little damp, so I imagine there's a spring in there somewhere. There's not much traffic up here. The only footprints in the last I've seen are my own, and a bunch of monkey footprints in the sand there. Closer look at the cistern. Built very well. Now, let's see if I can find that date. I remember seeing one here before. Oh, there it is. Okay. The Thai date is 2517. The current Thai date is, I believe, is 2558. So, I think. I'm almost certain of that. But, anyway, that date makes it 41 years. So it really hasn't been here that long, but I don't think it has been used for a very long time. I've climbed onto the top of the cistern and looked inside. That's how I determined that's what it was. There's water in there, pretty stagnant, but there is water in it. A little piece of pottery that I picked up and set onto the rock I found on the ground the other day. But it is a pretty cool area. No one comes here, so, and it's not visible from the ocean, so no one, unless you have local knowledge, knows it's here. So as you can see, you can't see the ocean. Well, you can see it through the trees a little bit, but they can't see into here. Okay. I hear some crackling in the brush. I think my monkey may be around. So I'm going to be careful of him. And we're going to head up to the next cool thing. And we'll see you in a minute. Okay, we have another look at the hotel. And I'm at a kind of a neat spot. You can sometimes see the spot from the hotel if you look carefully. It is kind of out of the reach of vision for a lot of people. But what I'm standing in, when I pull back you'll see in a second, is a little abandoned house, no roof, quite a few windows. It is built on a man-made kind of outcrop onto the rock. As you can see, it has a railing and a sharp drop off over the edge down to the sea. And don't want to fall down there. I don't even want to get too close because I'm kind of scared of heights. But as you can see, the building is very small, kind of neat place. We assume that at one time a monk lived here in solitude. I don't see any dates in the cement or the concrete that would date this for me. A lot of times they weren't dated, they were just built. But it is a kind of a neat place. And this is where I saw my 3.5-legged monkey the other day. He parked himself in front of that door when I was inside the building, and I had to wait until he kind of decided to move before I could move. Because I didn't want to surprise him, and I didn't want to scare him. And through the window you can see, or through the opposite door, you can see the hotel again. So a monk would come in and he would sleep here in solitude and quiet. And at that time, probably when it was built, none of this over there was built, so it would have been very green and forested and very quiet, because at one time, only even in the 1950s, the only way you could get to the shore here was by boat. So it would have been a very quiet and peaceful setting. It still is. If you look out the window here, you see the lovely islands, Lion Island and the Turtle Island, and the whole shoreline, and the bay, which would have been only populated by fishing boats, not swimmers or jet skis. Just very quiet. And above you can see the overcrop. That mound of rock is what hangs over the cool cistern and the Buddha in the cave that we saw earlier. Okay, next After I crawl through some hickory trees and past a cactus or two, we'll get onto another stretch of rock that we cannot see from the hotel, and have a decision to make. Okay, this is where my decision lies. Do I take that trail that way, or do I take the trail that way? Well, already been taken this trail. This one will lead you higher up the mountain and overlook the farthest point of the mountain that projects out to the sea. While it is a good view, it is kind of a difficult climb in some areas, and it is very pretty, and I can show you pictures attached to this video later of it. But we are going to go down this one, which is kind of really a cool trail. It descends quite steeply in some places, and we see our cactuses that are always our constant companions, and we must always watch out for them because they seem to try to grab you as you go by. And we're still descending. The reason I'm kind of taking you through this trail without stopping the video is that there's a feature of the trail coming up very quickly that I want you to see, and it's kind of cool. I mean, if you don't, it's kind of unexpected feature. As you can see, we're still on a rustic trail, walking through the cactuses, and now the trail gets really rustic. Quite a little step down here. Concentrating. Always grab onto some of the trees for support. Be careful which trees you grab onto because some have thorns. So we are near the bottom of the trail, and we come up to this feature here. Little bridge of rock which serves as a trail to it. This is a rock that has fallen across, and it's also a place where we actually have to go through. The rock has been there for God knows how long, and it looks pretty stable to me, and it looks smaller than it is, as you'll see when we go through. I just have to stoop over quite a bit to get through it, and we don't have to crawl on our bellies or anything, so you don't have to be too scared as we're going underneath the rock. So we're coming through. I've just stooped over, bent about halfway, walking through. So it isn't too bad, and it's a lot easier if you don't have a camera in your hand. And then we come out onto the rock to a nice little place that's not visible from the hotel. We are at the extreme vision of the hotel's vision of the mountain now because it kind of curves the other way, so you can't see it. It's a pretty place, very hot. Sun's beating down quite hard. And here we have a little beach that's comprised mostly of shells. So if you're a shell lover and want to find some cool things, I'm sure they're in here somewhere. I personally have enough shells to last me a long time. So if you wanted to, you could relax on this little stretch of beach, dip your toes in the cold water, cool water, and just kind of sunbathe in kind of complete solitude here. Okay, our next cool thing is, he's quite a shock when you first see him and come out through the rock, but I'm going to show him to you now. He looks like a giant petrified snapping turtle. And I have named him Gamera after the Japanese monster that was in Godzilla movies. It's a giant flying turtle in old Japanese movies. Again, his name is Gamera, and that's why I call him Gamera, because he looks very prehistoric and he looks like he could come to life any minute. However, as we walk along here, we will see that the turtleness goes away. He just looks like a turtle from the direction that we were. He's just a kind of a cool piece of rock that just looks different from the side. So we'll go back to the side so you can see him again. And there we have our Gamera back. Okay, so I have to climb over these big boulders. So I have to turn off the camera, and so I don't risk losing it in a crevice or something. And we'll see you in a minute. Okay, I've climbed over the boulders, and that formation ahead of you is the backside of Gamera. And as you can see, the rock slopes down into a cool feature all the way down to the sea. Very slanty, very hot because the sun bakes it so. Still our constant companion, the cactus. All along where the rock isn't, there is cactus. Here on this rock, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but I can see it pretty clearly, is an inscription painted in Army Gray or Army Silver, and I think someone told me that it does indicate that this is Army land. And there's a survey marker on it right there. There's no date that I could see. It's all written in Thai, so if it's stated, I can't read it. But here, as we still continue along this big, huge expanse of slanting rock, which is now almost at the very tip of where the mountain meets the sea in the farthest point. So look at some of the rock formations up here. There's some more writing on the rock, and I'm not sure what it is. But here's some cool features here. I've taken pictures of this, but you can't get the sheer size of it until you actually are here. It looks much smaller than it actually is. But it is quite large and kind of cool. These rocks have interesting formations, dips and curves and holes, and all the way underneath it goes way back. If a person decided to crawl on their belly, they could crawl all the way under this rock, about 30-40 feet, and I would not do it if I were you. There are some passages. This one's a narrow passage we can walk a little ways into. It's dark and cool in here. You can see it joins up here, and then you have to stoop and kind of stand sideways to continue walking. Where the sunlight is down there is an exit that you can go through if you were crawling. It's just a small hole, so it's not a big deal. I can easily get to that point by walking back out the crevice and going around to the left, which we'll do in a second. So still see the cool big large stones. Here is the hole that you could exit through the crevice with. And up further there's another hole that leads inside these boulders, which is our ending point, because we cannot crawl past these boulders unless we're really brave, have better shoes, and have better balance. Because at 46 I don't have the balance I did as a 22-year-old. But one last feature we're going to see out here on the very tip. Besides, it is very beautiful out here, and the only time I ever see people is when a fishing boat goes by. Like I said, it's very hot. Here is another crevice. It's a much taller and longer one. And we're gonna go in it a little ways. But there's a point, as you can see, it narrows down and gets very tight. It's possible there's an exit up there. I can see light coming down through. You can see the rocks that have fallen and kind of blocked the crack overhead. If we're really quiet and careful and we go through this crevice, we can hear and see bats, which I am not going to do because I have no desire to go to see bats. And some of those rocks up there that are precariously wedged into the crevice may not be as wedged as I think and could fall on my head and break my skull. But it is a cool picture, the shaft of light coming through behind me from the entrance, kind of leading you on, beckoning you to keep going. But I am not. So let's turn around in this narrow passage and look out there. We see daylight and the passage that lights the way forward is my salvation, because I'm coming back out. Because although I'm not claustrophobic, I'm just not a fan of bats and precariously perched rocks. Someday, if I had a helmet and some better clothing, I would most certainly try it on a cool day. But today it's very, very hot, and you bake really fast out here. So I hope you enjoyed the tour. Like I said, we are at the most northest, or the most tip of the mountain we can get by foot that peeks out into the ocean. I have a kind of a long walk back ahead of me. I'm going to go back to the place where the steps and the cistern is and relax, have a drink of water before I head back, and maybe see my three-legged monkey. And I'll take you for a little walk down to the water. Very swanky rock, but it is not too bad if you're pretty sure-footed. If you see dark patches like this, try not to walk on them because they're slippery and you could just slide right into the ocean. So we'll look back up the hill. You can see the cool rock in the foundation up there, and in the middle of the frame you'll see that one crevice is the one crevice that we were just in. Another view of the cool area. View of the army base. Continuing on to the end of the beach, Khao Takiab, and out in the ocean, Lion Island and Turtle Island. So I hope you enjoyed the trip. I hope you found it kind of cool. If you're a guest of the hotel or a former guest of the hotel, and seeing this mountain every day when you got up in the morning for breakfast, I hope you now can appreciate what there is to be seen that cannot be seen. Okay, as a bonus part of the video, I have gone through the whole tour and I'm on my way back now. And this is the topmost part of the mountain. At the very top, which you cannot see from here, is a kind of like an army tower and radar building. And it is pretty steep coming down. And as you can see, it slopes quite steeply down. I'm about a quarter of the way up this this incline, and in the background you can see the hotel and home, which I will soon be at in about a half hour or so more of walking. And again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and maybe we'll come up with another one soon. Thank you. Bye.